What is up, guys? It is AJ. Happy New Year. Today's video, we are talking about 3 major changes that can save The Ultimate Fighter and make it better than ever. It's a video that I've wanted to do for a while, so I'm actually really looking forward to this one. First change that we need is incentivizing the fighters. Sure, it's a great opportunity to be on television, be on Tough, but when the person who wins the show gets a 6-figure contract, which is a UFC deal which pays $20,000 per fight for 5 fights, the incentive isn't all that high. Sure, it's better than your entry-level UFC contract, but it's still not really all that good. It's still shit money. Let's say you fight twice in a year, that's $40K. Take out taxes, pay your coaches, you're broke. We need to do a $100,000 grand prize for the winner. The men and women willing to compete on The Ultimate Fighter are partaking in the toughest combat sports competition that exists. The tournament is not only consistently fights in a row, it's you're away from family and have no access to the outside world. You're completely cut off. It's essentially like going to a military boot camp, but you're fighting people the entire time. Now, sure, you're going to get great coaching. You're going to probably be able to improve your game being around, such high-level minds in mixed martial arts, but the winner of the show needs incentive. Guys and girls from the regional scene coming up, they're not jumping at the bit to do The Ultimate Fighter because they're looking at Contender Series as the fast road to the UFC. It's a huge opportunity, and it's not the stresses that The Ultimate Fighter brings, but if we incentivize The Ultimate Fighter, fighters are going to be more excited about doing it. They're definitely going to jump at the opportunity, but not only the fighters being excited. As a fan, when you hear the 6-figure grand prize, not the 6-figure contract scam, the real 6-figure $100,000 to the winner, people are going to want to see that. I mean, I feel like big money tournaments sell well, and I think it would be a genius idea for the UFC to commit to giving the winners of the show $100,000 straight up, grand prize, and give them a contract, I think, and give them the 6-figure contract. You went through the ring of fire and won tough. You deserve not only big money, but I also think a big push by the UFC. I think they really got to use it to market guys on the come up, make you really connect to those personalities and continue to build them. My opinion, that would be the first major change that's needed. Incentive needs to be higher. Right now, the Contender Series route is better. Maybe even getting on Dana White's looking for a fight or just winning serious fights on the regional scene. Instead, The Ultimate Fighter has become in the back of fighters' mind. Like, that's the last thing fighters want to do. And I mean, recent seasons, it's not like you're getting the creme de la creme of mixed martial arts regional scene talent. I would much rather go the route of incentive and bring in the higher level regional scene fighters like they have done in the past. Like, the flyweight season where you had all champions competing, and at the end, crazy enough, the winner of the show, Tim Elliott, who's, UFC vet even at that time, gets to fight against the champ. Not saying we do, an Ultimate Fighter winner versus a champion, but I want higher level fighters on Tough, and the incentive of a $100,000 grand prize, to me, is a good way to start it. The next change we need to make is coaches that people care about. I don't mind if they don't even fight at the end. If you told me Khabib, Tony Ferguson, no fight at the end, but we get to see them go head to head as coaches, I'd be excited as hell for it. Look at the season, Uriah Faber and Conor McGregor coach. They didn't fight at the end of it, but I still feel like the back and forth banter was sick. There was a heavy rivalry. The competition was high, and I think it was a fantastic season. Last season, Juliana Pena, Amanda Nunes, there's no hype on that rivalry. Like, I guess it is, a women's MMA rivalry, and at that point, Nunes was upset by Pena, but those personalities just don't sell for reality TV. And I really feel like even you look at the season prior to that, Volkanovski and Brian Ortega, decent personalities, but people still didn't really care. So for me, I want marquee names or marquee rivalries. One thing that I think the UFC could really take advantage of is doing Kamaru Usman, Leon Edwards as the coaches of the next season of The Ultimate Fighter, and you specify it. It's Team USA versus Team UK. I think a season like that can bring The Ultimate Fighter back to the forefront. I think it could do major numbers. Like, I personally still feel like The Ultimate Fighter could be a major reality TV show that the UFC does that brings in huge huge numbers, brings in great fighters, and I really think could build the next superstar. So let's say you don't have as big a names as Usman and Edwards as the coaches. I mean, you can still get quality fighters that have rivalries, like I mentioned, doing ex-fighters like Tony Ferguson and Khabib Nurmagomedov. I'm all down for bringing retired fighters in as coaches. I don't think that's a bad idea either. They don't have to fight at the end of it. Granted, I like when they do, and if they are, I think you go the Usman and Edwards route. I think that's a great season. Other coaches that you want are like big personality coaches, or let's do this one. What about Francis Ngannou, John Jones, coaches of The Ultimate Fighter? Not only are you selling The Ultimate Fighter with great coaches, you're also doing a good job to sell the fight between Jones and Ngannou, giving more time to promote them. Like, I think you can really use The Ultimate Fighter as a promoting platform, even for marquee matchups too, if they don't want to go like the legacy route and have retired fighters on, or even fighters in different weight classes that have bold personalities. We just need spice. The Ultimate Fighter has become dull. And obviously they took some time off from doing it, and it looked like it wasn't going to come back. But I think it can be turned around. I don't want to give up what, in my opinion, is the masterpiece product, which is The Ultimate Fighter. It was so good. You look back at early seasons. Come on, Rampage Jackson, Rashad Evans, that type of rivalry on Tough. That was an incredible season. Kimbo's on it. Roy Nelson. I mean, you look at the whole guys, Matt Mitrione, Brendan Schaub, tons. That was a great season. Way back, like, that was excellent for The Ultimate Fighter. I think that the marquee coaches, personalities we care about, that's a major key, and that would be a second major change. It, has happened before, but it just seems as of recent, they're not taking into consideration who the coaches are. To me, that's maybe more important than who even the fighters are. If you had marquee coaches and even subpar fighters, people are still tuning in to see those coaches battle head to head and who has the winning team. A third change that I make, it has to be back on the major networks. It can't just be behind the ESPN Plus paywall. If you can get The Ultimate Fighter with a $100,000 grand prize, with marquee coaches, just for fun, we're going to say you got Usman, Edwards, the trilogy, and these guys are the coaches of the season, UK versus USA, and you do it on ESPN. That's major. I think the numbers would actually blow what the UFC would expect, like out of the water, especially how big a sport mixed martial arts has come just recently. I mean, since the pandemic of 2020, the UFC has grown vastly. And I really think now is the time to bring Tough back better than ever. I think you incentivize the new fans coming in that never watched an Ultimate Fighter season before and wouldn't be interested in a season with Juliana Pena and Amanda Nunes. A lot of people, even hardcores, even myself, I had a hard time sitting through and watching that season. I'll be honest with you guys. I watched the first 5 episodes and then I just watched the fights because I wasn't interested in the training. There wasn't really any crazy drama and back and forth. And I'm not saying it needs to be like the most dramatic shit. It doesn't have to be the real world, but it doesn't hurt when a Junie Browning, if you guys haven't seen Junie Browning, look him up. This dude was the maniac of The Ultimate Fighter. A guy like that definitely brings the hype to it. Other crazy moments through The Ultimate Fighter, like Rampage ripping the door down. Crazy shit like that would bring big numbers. But you don't even need that drama bullshit. Just the marquee names and the marquee network, and then the incentivization of having a $100,000 grand prize. People are tuning in. I'm going to be watching every episode if it's on ESPN, if Usman and Edwards are the coaches, and I know there's big money on the line. It changes the landscape. Now regional scene fighters don't just look at the Contender Series. Now, the Contender Series route will be great because it's a short road. One fight, you win impressively, you're signed to UFC, but you're under that minimum contract. You're not getting great money. Or you can go on The Ultimate Fighter, and if you win the show, you get $100,000. You get to train with major coaches. And I think that the ESPN idea, doing it on mainstream network television, you're going to be, how many eyes are going to be on me? There might be an episode that does 1 million views. So many things can go right with The Ultimate Fighter, and I really feel like it needs to be saved. I'm praying that the UFC somehow hears me and decides to implement some of the changes that I'm mentioning. I also feel like an honorable mention, something that they could potentially do, would maybe instead of just doing one fight an episode, you do 2 fights an episode. Maybe they can the idea of doing multiple weight classes on the same season and instead just dial in the focus to one tournament. I do feel like when you look back at the earlier seasons where they did the tryout round where you came in and had to fight to earn your spot, I think that was sick, and I wouldn't mind that coming back either. Granted, of course, risk of injury is higher doing such a thing, but also the hype sells. And I mean, it's the toughest tournament in sports. Let's keep it going. Major 3 is all I need. I need the incentive. I need the $100,000 grand prize. I need the coaches that people care about. And I really feel like the major network needs to pick it up. ESPN should have it on. And I feel like if the first 2 come, ESPN will be interested. Now, I don't think ESPN is interested in producing or putting the show on mainstream ESPN with Juliana Pena and Amanda Nunes as the coach. Nobody cares. No one's going to watch. Subpar fighters are on it. There's the 6-figure contract that I never get hype on because it's not $100,000 up front. It's a long road to get your $100K fighting savages through the UFC. And then you win the Ultimate Fighter and they just throw you to the lions. They give you terrible matchups. Recent winner like Brad Katona, who looked really good as a prospect, people thought was going to be maybe something special in the lighter weight classes, ends up getting cut from the UFC after I believe 2 losses, and he was done. Build the winner of the Ultimate Fighter. I think incentivize the fighters. Major changes can be done to save this show. Right now, it's going in the shitter. If they keep what they're doing going, the Ultimate Fighter will stop airing, and the UFC is probably just going to do primary focus on the Contender Series. And I guess maybe you can't blame them. It probably costs a lot less money to produce something like the Contender Series than TUF. But the fan experience of a super Ultimate Fighter where you do it on mainstream television, $100,000 grand prize, and give me elite level coaches, any hardcores watching, but I think the casual eyes will be interested too. So UFC, listen up, make some changes. Guys, let me know in the comments. Do you agree with the 3 major changes that I mentioned? Do you think they're possible? First thing, I personally think they are. The UFC definitely has the money to do such. Do you think the UFC chooses to do it though? How likely are they to pull it off? Do you agree with them? Definitely let me know. I appreciate everybody for tuning into this video. I'm hype as hell at the idea because I'm just imagining the Ultimate Fighter reborn. This is like an Ultimate Fighter 2.0. I want to see these changes happen. Hopefully, 2023, the UFC is willing to experiment and try something new, and we make the Ultimate Fighter great again. Much love, people. I hope you enjoyed. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace, guys.